When was the last time someone knew the full version of you? Not the version you curate, not the one that's safe to show in meetings or on your grid or even in your closest friendships. I mean the full version. The one that includes the chapters that you skip when you tell your story, the name you've been called that you've never corrected, the truth about who you are that you've been carrying alone because you weren't sure that anyone could hold it. When was the last time someone knew that version of you and you let them? I've been sitting with that question for these last 2 weeks, and I'll be honest with you, it made me uncomfortable in the best possible way because I realized that being known is not the same as being seen. You can be seen every day and still feel invisible in the places that matter the most. You can feel full and in company in the emptiest rooms, and on the other side of that, feel lonely in a room that's full of people. Being known is different. Being known requires something of you. It requires you to stop performing, even if just for a moment, and to stand in your actual truth. After these last 2 weeks, as we all know, I wasn't able to provide you with this episode last week, so I'm doubling up and getting it done because I had some health concerns that showed up, which I'm looking at in a different perspective altogether. Whereas in the past, when I've been sick, when I've dealt with this same consistent issue, I always looked at it as against me. And this time around, it felt more like a purge, like a cleansing. And my coach said something very valuable to me. He said, maybe this is preparation because God is removing from you what it is that no longer serves you so that you can show up in your best, at your best. And maybe this needs to be embraced in all that you've been teaching about taking that nap, if you all remember that from our first month together, getting that rest that you deserve without guilt-free rest. Maybe this is the time for you to embody all that you have been teaching so that you can allow what is not for you to be flushed from you, and you can be in your greatest self for your greatest good. And here we are now. This would have been week 4 of She Is Seen March, going into April. And I give so much gratitude for you, my community, because you held me firm and held me strong when I started to question the consistency that I've been showing, that I've been proving. You said you need not prove. We know that you're here and we just want you to stay in your best, at your most valuable. Get your rest, sis. And when you have that time and you have that message to deliver to us, go ahead and bring it to us. And here I am in space with you, with the honor and the privilege of serving you in full reciprocation of the love that you show to me at all times. Hi, my name is Malika. I am the Serenity Engineer and Architect of Atmosphere. We are wrapping up the month of March. She is seen. We've processed. She is introduced. She is heard. She is felt, and here we are at She Is Known on this Give Her Flowers.
Grand Rising.
Episode 9.
Give her flowers, give her grace, give her room to flow. Rooted and rising, let the whole world know. Serenity engineer, the architect of atmosphere, powered by grand rising. Watch your light glow. Rooted, we not move shaky. Rising, still calm, still ready. Yeah, give her flowers while she's here. Give her flowers. Give her flowers while she's here.
Greetings and grand rising. Welcome back to Give Her Flowers. Can you believe this is episode 9? And this is such a great episode for me because the number 9 in itself and what it represents, completion, it means so much in this moment. Last week, we spent time with Salt XO, Jaleesa, founder of Salt XO, at her wellness experience, Taste Better, Run Better, where I led the intentional meditation. Something that just a few months ago, I had no clue that I would even be willing to do, to then go and be within this space, within the community. And it reflects so much of what it is that we do here, the beauty of what we have created here in the sanctuary. For those who are new, again, my name is Malika, Serenity Engineer and Architect of Atmosphere. This space, the sanctuary, is the community that I've created, powered by Grand Rising. If you have been walking with us and you walked through the month of March, first of all, I see you. I genuinely see you. We have been inside something sacred together. I don't know if you feel that. I hope, I trust that you feel that. The She Is Seen arc, 4 weeks, 4 layers of what it means for a woman to be fully witnessed, not just by the world, but by herself. Week 1, we asked, she is seen, she is introduced. Can you be looked at? Can you stand in the gaze of another person without flinching or shrinking or explaining yourself? Can you let yourself be seen? Can you let yourself be heard in your unfiltered voice, which takes us to week 2, she is heard. We sat with the weight of our voices, what we've said, what we've swallowed, what we've been whispering to ourselves when no one else is listening. Week 3, she has felt the body, the presence, the way you move through a room, the way your energy lands before you even speak, the way you honor yourself and what it is that your body is telling you, because first and foremost, before anything, the most important part of She Is Heard is that you are hearing yourself and what your body is telling you. And it is so amazing to me that as we go through these different topics, it's as if I'm telling my own story within it before it even happens, because if you've been checking in and tuning in, you know that this all applies to what I'm going through as well this week. And that's the beauty of this space, that we are walking in this together. Not one leading the rest, we're all leading the path together in our own journeys, individually and united in community, all at the same time. We've honored all of it, and here we are now, the 4th week of She Is Seen March. She is known. This is the culmination. This is where everything we've uncovered, everything we've sat with and grieved and claimed, this is where it arrives. Not at some perfectly healed destination, but at a truth. Your truth. The full, unedited version of who you actually are. That's what today is about. And I want to say, before we go any further, if you are new to this podcast and this is the first episode that you've heard, welcome. You don't need to have done the whole arc to receive what we're doing today, but I will say, go back. Go back to the beginning. There's something waiting for you in weeks 1, 2, and 3 that I just don't want you to miss. Okay, let's go in. I want to start by drawing a distinction that I think is going to land differently for every person that's listening, depending on where you are in your life. There's a difference between being seen and being known. Being seen is visible. It's your presence. It's showing up. It's the part of you that people can observe. Your work, your style, your words, your face. Being seen is something that can happen to you. You can be seen without your permission. You can be seen while hiding. You can be seen and still feel completely alone. Being known is something else entirely. Being known is intimate. Being known happens in the interior. It requires disclosure, not necessarily public disclosure, not a confession on social media or a vulnerable post, but a willingness to be honest, to be the author of your story, first with yourself and then in the right relationships with others, in an atmosphere that you have created because you are an architect of your atmosphere. Here's what I've learned about being known, and it took me a long time to understand this. You cannot be known by someone else until you are willing to know yourself. It sounds obvious, but I mean it in a very specific, non-motivational poster kind of way. I spent years building relationships where I was loved for a version of myself that I had carefully constructed. Not a lie exactly, more like a highlight reel, the strong parts, the together parts, the Malika who had done the work, who had the language, who could show up for other people. And in the spaces where I felt like I couldn't, I hid. I tucked those parts away, and it never felt all the way right. Always been genuine, always transparent, always supportive of myself in my talk and in my walk, but not the full truth, not the whole truth. Some parts I kept to myself, and it wasn't the best kind of keeping to yourself where it's just yours to own because it's a treasure that you don't necessarily want to share with the world. But the other kind, the kind that hides because it's embarrassed, it's wrapped in shame, the kind that needs truth to power spoken out loud, clearly, so that your atmosphere can align with the intention and the activation of you being in your fullest, unfiltered, body hearing and sensing way of being. The Malika who had done the work, who had the language, who was showing up for other people, I was loved for that, genuinely. But there was a cost. Because the parts of me that weren't on that highlight reel, the confused parts, the still healing parts, the things I hadn't figured out yet, those parts, they were alone. Even in a room full of people who loved me. That's the paradox of performing even a beautiful version of yourself. You can build a community around who you're becoming and still feel unknown in the very center of it. And I don't say this to make you sad or to make you feel bothered. I say this because I think a lot of women in this community know exactly what I'm talking about. You have built something beautiful, a life, a business, a family, a reputation, a presence, and there is still a private part of you, maybe the most essential part of you that has been waiting to be included in the story, waiting for someone to ask about it, waiting for an invitation to speak about it, waiting maybe for you to acknowledge it yourself. She is known starts there. Not with being known by the world, with being known by you so that you can translate it to the world in a way that is understood because you are now fully understanding yourself. What does it mean to fully know yourself? As for me, I think it means allowing yourself to have an interior life that isn't in service of anything. Not your brand, not your relationships, not your healing journey, not your testimony, just you. The thoughts that you have in the middle of the night at 3 a.m., the dreams you have that are too weird or too big or too tender to say out loud. The parts of your story that don't have a redemptive arc yet. They're just still happening. Still unresolved, still tender. Knowing yourself means including those parts in your understanding of who you are. It means not outsourcing your sense of self to how other people respond to you, how other people speak of you, how other people see you. It means not silencing yourself and swallowing your truth for the sake of protection for those who have served you the plate of pain that you continue to hold, that you continue to digest in silence because you don't want to hurt them the way that they hurt you. It means being able to sit in a room by yourself in solitude and feel like you're in good company, to be in a space by yourself in the serenity of solitude, finding the joy in the little moments. Even if in the moment the bad feels like it outweighs the good, you find that joy and you live there. You hold on to that while you acknowledge the pain, but you don't speak from the wound. You alchemize it from, look what happened to me. Look at what I've been through. Look at what's been done to me. Into, look at what I've grown through. Look at what I did. This is where being known begins. And that is what we are building towards today. I'd like to take a moment to talk about names. Not just your name, though we will get there. I want to talk about the names you've been given. The ones that were assigned to you before you were old enough to agree or disagree, and the ones that you took on later, the ones you accepted quietly because the alternative felt too costly. Strong one, my love, the one who handles it, the helper, the loud one, the difficult one, the one who always comes through, the one who needs too much, the one who asks too many questions, the one who doesn't ask for enough. Some of those names were given with love. Some of them were given carelessly. Some of them were given as a way to keep you manageable. And here's the thing about names. They shape the space you believe you're allowed to occupy. If you've been named the strong one for long enough, you start to believe that needing help is some sort of betrayal of the role of the people who depend on you, of the version of yourself that everyone is counting on. It starts to become affirmed in your being. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's something that, of course, we would all like to avoid, going through that process and then having to unlearn all of that. But at the end of the day, We wouldn't be able to appreciate who we are becoming if we did not take the time to give gratitude for who we have been. If you've been named too much, too loud, too emotional, too intense, too ambitious, you start to shrink. Not all at once, slowly. It's like small negotiations, speaking a little softer here, dimming a little over there, choosing not to say the thing you actually think because you've already been told in one way or another that it is too much, that you are too much. You're not. You're not. You can never be too much. They just don't have the capacity to hold the grandness that is you, divinely designed. And if you've been named not enough, and I know there's a lot of us that are carrying that one, you start to spend your life auditioning, proving, pleasing, working twice as hard to earn a fraction of the acknowledgement, making yourself indispensable because invisible feels safer than rejected. These names follow us. They follow us into our work and our relationships and our parenting and our leadership. They inform how we enter a room. They shape what we believe we deserve. The most interesting thing about that is that carrying those names is a choice. Continuing to live through those archetypes is a choice. And that choice falls in line with whether or not you've been utilizing what it is that we've been learning together, whether or not you've been reshaping your space to feed you more than starve you. Part of being known, really known, is doing your audit. Which names are mine? Which names were placed on me by someone who needed me to be a certain way for their own reasons? Which names served me once and have since become a cage? Most importantly, what name would I give myself if I could start over? I've done this work, I've sat with this question, and what came up for me surprised me. The name I would give myself is not a title, it's not a role, it's not even something I can fully articulate. It's more of an energy, a frequency, it's more of a quality, a way of being, rooted. That's the name I would give myself, rooted. Not because I have everything figured out, not because I don't sway or bend or get knocked around by life, but because I know where I am planted. I have not always been able to say that, but at this point in my life, as the architect of my atmosphere and serenity engineer, I am rooted because I know where I am planted. I know what I'm connected to. I know what feeds me. I know what starves me. I know what drains me. I know what fuels me. I know that no storm has ever actually uprooted me, even the ones that felt like they could. I'm asking you right now to sit with this. What name would you give yourself? Not the name that describes your function or your role or your history, but the name that describes your essence. Take your time with that. It's okay if it doesn't come right away. One of the worksheets this week in the Bloom Room, the name I carry, it'll walk you through this exact process, the audit, the release, and the claiming. If you're a Bloom Room member, that worksheet is waiting for you. If you're not yet, the link is in the show notes. Come on in. This work is better in community. Let's talk about something that I have not always been able to talk about. Yeah, I did. I think I would say that I have talked about it, but I rushed it. As I said earlier, I would find a way to sneak it in there, but then I would cut it short very fast because I didn't want to go into the details. Today, I want to tell you something about my story. There are chapters of my life that I used to skip, not because they were shameful, though some of them did feel that way, but because I didn't know how to hold them yet. I didn't know how to honor them. I didn't have the language for them. And because I didn't have language, I treated them like they were outside of the story, like they were footnotes or rough drafts, like mistakes that didn't count towards the final version. Funny enough, though, it's interesting because although it was hard for me to speak my story, I would sing it. There's little tidbits of my story throughout a lot of my songs, but then there came the speaking again when it came to marketing or pushing the songs, because I wouldn't tell anyone. Or when I would do the shows, I wouldn't share it with anyone. I saved it for the strangers because I was too uncomfortable with sharing my true feelings of my journey with those that I know would see me the next day. And when I think about that now, I just want to go back in my mind and give myself a hug, because I was able to find the strength to get through that and to get to this point where I see my life, my story in the most beautiful version, the most honest and purest version that I've ever shared. I thought being known meant sharing the parts of me that were presentable, the breakthrough, the growth, the pivot, the work I'd done on myself that I could point to and say, see, I learned something. You see, I came through it. And those parts are real. I'm not dismissing them. But the chapters I was skipping, those were the real ones. The ones where I was confused and doing my best and I was still getting it wrong. The ones where I chose the hard thing because I didn't know yet that I had other options. The ones that weren't clean, that didn't have a moral at the end. That just happened and shaped me and left a mark. I've had to learn something that I want to offer you today. Your testimony is not a performance. Your testimony is not the version of your story you tell when you want to inspire someone or give them hope or demonstrate your resilience. Your testimony is not the highlight reel, and it is not the wound reel either. Your testimony is the whole thing, the boring middle, the confusing beginning, and the ending that's not finished yet, the chapter that you're still in, the part where you haven't figured out the lesson yet because you are currently living it. All of it is sacred. And when you treat it that way, when you stop separating your story into the parts worth telling and the parts worth hiding, something shifts. When you stop curating your story to fit the idealistic version of you that other people have in their mind, when you stop editing your story in order to avoid the opinions that may be garnered about what it is that you've experienced, something shifts. You stop living at a distance from yourself and you start being known. I think about the women who've sat in the Bloom room and shared something they had never said out loud before, not because I asked them to be vulnerable. I didn't. Not in a performative way, but because the container was safe enough, the community was safe enough. Because someone else told a truth and made space for another truth and another truth and another truth and another. That is what community does at its best. It gives us witnesses, and being witnessed by even one person changes you. And let me say that better. Being witnessed by one person who reflects what it is that you want to see in yourself, that you know lives within yourself. Being witnessed by individuals that honor your being, even when they're not sure how to honor their own. That honor the path that they get to walk with you and learning and growing and being and feeling and hearing and seeing. Being witnessed by your people, which has nothing to do with blood or water. Being witnessed by even one of those people changes you. It changes what you believe is possible. It changes what you believe is true about yourself. It changes how you speak about yourself because they have raised your bar. They have set a bar for you to meet and exceed, where you speak about yourself and the power that you were meant to. This is the importance of curating your community and being the architect of your atmosphere, holding on to what feeds you and letting go of what starves you. And how do we do that? Say it with me: metrics and insights. And you will always hear me say that because it is so important to do the work, to go back to that first article, the command center, to list out your feeds and your starves so you know exactly what it is that you're working with. To set those alarms that go off when you're not being fed in the way that you deserve, when you're not being fed for the sake of your growth and your bloom and your harvest, when you're not taking the time to prune because you're so focused on abundance that you don't realize that you're holding on to so much because you haven't learned to let go to create room and space for what it is that you're asking for, that you are actually weighing yourself down and calling it pretty and full. There's a worksheet this week called My Testimony, and it asks you to sit with the chapters you least want to talk about. Not to share them publicly, not to package them into content, but to look at them, to acknowledge them as part of the story, to say, this happened, it belongs to me, I am still here, I did this. It didn't happen to me, it happened for me, because I am at all times, from the moment that I entered this atmosphere, from the moment that I became the human within this experience, it was always happening for me in protection of me. I am still here. I did that. It didn't do anything to me. I did that. I believe that exercise will change something in you. Not because I came up with good questions. though I hope I did. But because you will be bringing your full story into the room, maybe for the first time, and that is an act of profound courage. Your story is not a liability. It is the most powerful thing that you own. And when you are on this journey, and most of us from the time that we've spent together, I am well aware a lot of us are on this journey with the hope that we can inspire others. The best way to inspire others is by seeing yourself, learning you, so that you can then exhibit, not even through your words, but through your walk, that you are practicing what it is that you teach. Knowing you and knowing your story and honoring that those that are for you will find you within you being your most authentic self, seeing yourself, learning yourself, knowing you, and delivering that in a way that is fitting of the power that you embody. That is profound courage. That is the most powerful thing that you own, your story. And not the story that you play a character in, but the story that you are writing for yourself. And in that walk, you are inspiring. In that walk, you find your talk. In that talk, you are guiding. Just by speaking naturally of your own experience, you are providing insight to those who need it the most, not chasing the people who don't need what it is that you're providing, but planting a seed with those that will actually appreciate your presence and your time and your efforts, so much so that they will ensure for themselves they will water that seed and they will grow that tree. And they will bloom, and they will prune, and they will harvest. All because you took the time to know yourself. Your story is not a liability. It is the most powerful thing that you own. So, my love, whoever you are listening right now, have been inside something this month. Whether you've been in the Bloom Room doing every worksheet, or whether you've been listening to this podcast in your car, on your walks, or while folding laundry at 2 o'clock in the morning because you didn't have the time to get it done and you took that nap that you so well deserved and now you're up. You have been inside a process, and that is not small. The She Is Seen arc was not designed to be passive content. It was designed to be an experience, a passage, something that you walk through and come out of differently on the other side. And I want to ask you gently, do you feel it? Because I feel it. I feel it in the community. I feel it in the messages I get, the voice notes, the emails, the things that you are sharing in the Bloom Room that I know took courage to express, unfiltered. I feel it in the shift that happens when a group of women have been doing this kind of work together. Something opens. Not everyone, not all the way, not forever, but something opens. And that opening, that cracked open feeling, that is exactly where knowing begins. I pray that you understand when I say this. And this is also based on perception and changing the way that we look at seeing and telling our story. When I say cracked open, there was a time in my life when cracked open sounded so painful. And now when I have these experiences, because of the work that we have been doing, I say cracked open and I realize that it is a moment of ceremony, self-ceremony that should be honored, because the only way to let the light in is to be cracked open. It is the broken parts that come together to create the strongest foundations, because knowing what weak is the catalyst for you to embrace and appreciate power. Knowing what sad feels like is the catalyst for you to embrace and embody joy, duality. Without one, you truly can't understand the other. And so we give gratitude, we say thank you, we give thanks for all parts. To the women, my beautiful community that have been watching from outside the Bloom Room, who have been listening to this podcast, following the content, feeling something move in them, and haven't yet stepped into the Bloom Room, I see you. And I want you to know the door is open. This community is not a highlight reel of healed women who have it all together. It is a group of women in various stages of their becoming, confused and clear, struggling and strong, showing up anyway. That's what we mean by Bloom Room. Not that everyone is blooming all the time, but that this is the room where blooming is possible, where the conditions are right, where there are enough witnesses. Being known in community looks like this. It looks like saying the thing you've been holding and having someone say, me too. It looks like asking for help and receiving it without conditions. It looks like disagreeing with someone and still feeling safe. It looks like showing up on a hard week, not performing okayness, not apologizing for where you are, and being welcomed anyway. That is what I am building with Grand Rising. That is what we are building in the sanctuary, in the Bloom Room. That is what the Bloom Room is for. And this arc, She Is Seen, has been the most sacred expression of it yet. And I am so grateful for every woman who walked the month of March with us. You are known here, fully, without edits. In the Bloom Room this week, there's a worksheet called the She Is Known Declaration, and it asks you to write in your own words, in your own voice, a declaration of your full truth, who you are beyond the edits, what you know to be true about yourself, even if you've been afraid to say it out loud. I wrote mine this week. I want to share it with you, not because mine is the template, yours will be completely different, but because I believe in modeling what I'm asking you to do. I am known as a woman who carries weight without collapsing under it, and who has learned slowly that carrying weight is not the same as carrying alone. I am known as a builder of communities, of containers, of spaces where women can finally exhale. I am known as someone who has been in the valley not once but many times, and who has learned that the valley is not a detour, it is part of the road. I am known as a woman who loves fiercely and grieves deeply, and who no longer apologizes for the depth of either of those. Those processes, those beautiful, sacred processes, those self-ceremonies of loving fiercely and grieving deeply, why would we ever apologize for the depth? I am known as someone who is still becoming, who does not have all the answers, and has made peace most days with not needing to. I am known as Malika, rooted, reaching here. Before I let you go, I want to give you your flowers, because that's what this show is for. That is what it will always be for. You, my love, you showed up to this episode. You listened all the way through. You let these words land in whatever place in you they were meant to reach. You deserve your flowers. You've been doing something courageous since the day that you stepped into the sanctuary, and before then, I'm sure, whether you recognized it or not. Even if it didn't look courageous from the outside, even if no one clapped for it, even if you're still in the middle of it and it doesn't feel like progress yet, you've been choosing to look at yourself, to know yourself, to hear yourself, to see yourself, to introduce yourself, to be known, to allow yourself to be a little more real to yourself, and maybe to a few safe people around you. That's not a small thing. That's actually the whole thing. She is introduced. She is heard. She is felt. She is known. She is seen. You walked all the way through. I want you to carry this with you this week. You are not behind your story. You are built by it. Your voice has a record, and it's a good one. Your presence has left marks in people's lives that you may never fully see. And the full truth of who you are, it's not something to manage, it's something to inhabit. Come into the Bloom Room if you haven't yet. The link is in the show notes. The She Is Known worksheets are there, and the community is there. And I'm there. And if you're already in the Bloom Room, gratitude. I thank you. I thank you for trusting this space, for bringing your actual self into it, for being part of what Grand Rising, the sanctuary rooted in rising, is becoming. My name is Malika, Serenity Engineer and Architect of Atmosphere, and this is Give Her Flowers, episode 9. She was always known. She just had to remember.
I've been wearing names that don't belong to me, carrying the weight of who they needed me to be, standing in the light but living in the shade, loving all the way through but still afraid. But something in me knows, something deep and old and true has been waiting on the other side of everything I've been holding on to. She is known, not by what she carries, but by what she's made of. She is known, not by how she's seen, but by how she loves. Every chapter, every name, every quiet place she's been, she was always known. She just had to let it in. I've been telling half my story like the rest don't count, keeping all the tender parts tucked safe inside my mouth. But a woman who is known has put the whole thing down, said this is who I am now. This is hallowed ground, and something in me knows I was never really lost. I was learning how to find myself, learning what it costs. She is known, not by what she carries, but by what she's made of. She is known, not by how she's seen, but by how she loves. Every chapter, every name, every quiet place she's been, she was always known. She just had to let it in. I don't have to earn it, I don't have to prove. The truth about me is already true. I don't have to shrink it, I don't have to hide. I was known before I even tried. Known by name, known by story, known by every scar that held its own glory, known by touch, known by voice, known by every moment I stood up and made a choice. I am known. She's known, not by what she carries, but by what she's made of. She is known, not by how she's seen, but by how she loves. Every chapter, every name, every quiet place she's been, she was always known. She was always known. She just had to let it in. She was always known. She just had to remember. She was always known. She just had to remember. She